Hello, everyone, and welcome to the broadcast. Today, we are reading r/entitled parents on Reddit, and I've got 5 stories already pulled up. So, let's get to it. Our first one, entitled Kid Gets KO'd. This one was posted by Outlaw Trucker 1977. So, I live on a ranch, and we own some cattle. Hay has been really expensive lately, so we needed to sell some cows to afford hay. We had a listing on Facebook Marketplace and some other places about cattle for sale. We had some cows ready to go to the butcher's, so we put them in another pen. A lady DMs us and asks if she can come to the property and take a look. We agreed on a time and then discussed what type of cows we had. The day the lady was supposed to arrive, she seemed to be running late. We waited and she didn't show up. Later, she apologized for not showing up and she asked if she could swing by the next day. I told her that I was going to be doing some busy work, but I'll probably be free later in the day. So it was settled. Next day, I was running some hay to our cows, and when I pulled into the driveway, her car was there. I get out, and immediately I am met with, "Where have you been?" That's going to be my entitled parent voice. Me. "Oh, you're here early. I said I was doing some stuff with the cows, but I've got some time to do this real quick." So I take her to the pen, and she looks in. She points to the other pen and says, "Why are they separated? Shouldn't these guys be together?" "Oh no, we are butchering them this summer, so we put them in there so we can fat them up a bit." Entitled parent, "Butcher! You torture these wonderful creatures?" Now, I'm not one to judge someone who is against animal abuse. In fact, I am with them. Some of these big industries do treat their animals badly, and it's a problem. I am one not to do that. Not sure if I should have when I read that. Cows give us food, so I make sure that my cows are taken care of properly. But what is this lady expecting? I don't care if people like meat or don't, or whether they eat it or not. I couldn't give 2 expletives. But she came out to a ranch, a cattle ranch. There's bound to be cows heading for the butcher. Me. "Oh, ma'am, I assure you, these cows are treated like kings. I make sure their death is quick and painless. But these are the cows you're looking for." She just scoffed. I take her by the pen we were supposed to be looking at. So, how is this Karen an entitled parent? Well, she had a kid in her car. She was buying him a cow as a pet. She had a small trailer, probably only big enough for 1 cow. At this point, she called him out of the car. "So, which one do you like?" Entitled kid, "I like that one." This kid had pointed to a calf. This calf was too young to be weaned or taken from his mom, so he would have to be sold with his mom. Me. "If you want that one, you're going to have to buy that Red Angus right there. That's his mom, and he's too young to leave her yet." Entitled parent with a disgusting look. "So I have to buy both?" Me. "Yes, ma'am. But since she's a mom, she's very protective. So Let's find another cow. Entitled kid, but Mom, I want that one. Entitled parent, my baby wants that one. He's just so cute and small. I don't want to get anything too big. Me. So if that's the case, you should go look for some miniature cows. I know some sellers and I can get you their contact information. Entitled parent, yeah, but I'm already here. Entitled kid, Mommy, can I go pet the cow? Me, no! Entitled parent, sure, sweetie. What's the big deal? He just wants to pet the cow. Rule number 1 with cattle. Be aware of your surroundings. If you see a cow with a calf and the mom is high-headed, don't go near it. This kid is too young to understand, but his mom is too stupid to look out for her blasted kid. Now, the mom of the calf this kid went to go... I gotta reread that one. Now, the mom of the calf this kid went to go pet is a total 5-letter word referring to a female dog, starting with the letter B. I'll leave you to figure out that one. She will not put up with anything. So the kid crawls under the paddle, and he looked to be about 10 or so. Well, I had to try go into the pen, but I needed a cattle prong. A cattle prong is just a long rod that delivers a light shock to the cattle. It's the equivalent of a shock collar to dogs, except it's just long so people can stay safe and keep their distance. Her son goes to touch the calf, and the mom is giving all the warning to stay the hell away. He gets close to the calf, and it freaks out. Cows kick to the side, not to the back like a horse. So the calf kicked this kid square in the side of the head. He fell over and started screaming. So is his mom. I hate to say it, but it felt so good to see that entitled Karen see what happens when she doesn't listen to professionals. But now, with all the screaming, the rest of the cattle are wound up. I get my cattle prong, rush into the pen, and as the mom was about to start charging this poor kid, I start herding her away from him, and I get him out of the pen. I give him back and told her to get off my property. She started yelling at me, but I just tuned her out. I can't stand people like that. Moral is, listen to the people who know what they're talking about. Well, you know what? I think this entitled Karen and her mini Karen got exactly what they deserved. A hard kick to the head by reality, and a very stern message to get out of Dodge before things get really bad. But there are some Karens who just don't get the memo and try to escalate and escalate and escalate and escalate until the cops come in and take the Karen out of the picture. Okay, next post. Entitled mom complains I'm not going back to school, saying she and dad will support me when for the last year I've been helping to support them. From Choice Ad 7544. So, as in the title, my mom has brought up recently asking when I'm planning to go back to school so I don't have to keep working a slightly above minimum wage job. I would absolutely like to do that, but the problem is I cannot afford to do that right now. Her argument: there are several scholarships and financial aid programs I could apply for. My argument: even if I could go back to school tomorrow with all expenses paid, I have little money saved up, and I'll only be able to put a small trickle at a time, given the fact I'll have to cut my working hours while going back to school. So if something major happens, such as I lose my job, I have a major car repair, etc., I'm screwed. Her argument: so, your dad and I can support you while you do so. My argument: don't get me wrong, that is nice and would certainly take the worries off my back, and under normal circumstances I'd be glad to go back to school, but recently my parents have been having financial difficulties, so much that I've had to help them with a lot of stuff. Off the top of my head, $5,000 for car repairs, $5,000 for legal issues, $2,000 for property repairs, $1,000 for another matter, and that's not counting the multiple times throughout the past year I've paid for gas, groceries, phone bills, and multiple other occasions where I've kicked up a few hundred to $1,000 to help with expenses. Adding it all up together, it's conservatively on the low end of 18 to 19,000, on the high end of 24 to 25,000, give or take a few more grand both ways. All that plus my own pre-existing expenses, car payments, and insurance for my new car this year has left me with very little money. My dad, grateful for all the help I've offered, perfectly understands and agrees with me that it's a unrealistic and unreasonable expectation for my mom to want me to go back to school anytime soon. For my mom, however, the above argument seems to go right over her head, and instead I must just be too lazy or content with my job to go back to school, which really irks me. If I assume its higher estimation and didn't need to spend any of that money helping my parents, I'd have plenty to work with in case of an emergency while going back to school, and would have been able to pay off half of my remaining car payments, which again, my dad agrees with and understands my point of view. It's my mom who seems to refuse to comprehend this fact, despite saying she's grateful for all the financial help I've given the past year. She's always had the mentality of, if this is how I had to deal with situation A, then this must be how everyone else in the world has to deal with situation A. So when something comes along to break that little bit of logic of hers, it's extremely hard to convince her. That's stupid as hell. I think that's an example of parent does not expect the situation to change, so she tries to force her hand and stick with her own little world. But the original poster's father seems to agree with the poster himself. Apparently, I smell some conflict between both parents. They might get into a very heated discussion later on down the line, and then the poster's probably going to have to get out of Dodge himself. Nevertheless, I really think there's going to be an argument between the two parents. Okay, next post. From Kanceir, spelled Kanceir. Why my entitled grandmother kicked me out. So this all happened in the span of a couple months back in 2020 as COVID started getting bad where my family lived. I honestly just want to get this off my chest because it's been weighing on me for a while. I, age 21 at the time, had to move back home from another state on very short notice due to a driver's license issue, since I couldn't get it unsuspended or reissued without physically going into a DMV in my home state. I had also just gotten fired from my job, so I needed to get everything taken care of ASAP. My grandparents generously agreed to let me come stay with them, and my grandfather even drove round trip to Michigan and back to pick me up and tow my car since I couldn't drive it. I fixed my license problem and started job hunting while they were letting me stay there, and I helped around the property to earn my keep since I couldn't pay them. They had a lot of animals that I fed and cleaned up afterwards. I mowed for them and moved mulch, planted trees, and neither of them could drive, so I would chauffeur them around to take them to appointments, pick up medicine, go grocery shopping, etc. I was also friendly with a couple of their neighbors who let me do some work on the side for a bit of cash to get me by. One of my grandmother's dogs and one of her cats ended up having puppies/kittens, and she let me take one of each. I loved those little guys. I took care of them in addition to all of her other animals. To keep a long story short, I broke my back for them to pay them back for getting me out of a bad situation and for giving me a place to stay. But living there wasn't easy to begin with. My grandfather suffered from Parkinson's and had more or less given up on trying to take care of himself and constantly asked people for help, including guests, while my grandmother was verbally abusive to him, manipulative to everyone around her, and constantly goaded me and others into conversations about religion, race, politics, and every other controversial topic under the sun that would inevitably turn into arguments because she's obsessed with being right and awful. Sorry. She's always had some fake news YouTube video playing on her TV that you would see immediately upon walking into the house. She's pissed off everyone in my family at least once, multiple times for most, as well as all of her neighbors at some point or another. My older sister lived with her for a while after moving out when she got pregnant with her first kid, and my grandmother guilt-tripped her into physical labor while pregnant. And then, when my sister left, my grandmother called the cops to track her down because she reported that she stole in quotation marks, their car. It was in my sister's name. Everybody else who's lived on her property or even just took jobs from her all have similar stories about how toxic she is. She's even complained about how her second house is so full of problems, even though she was the one who had a bunch of independent laborers build it based on her own design instead of hiring qualified architects and builders to do it. My mom won't even talk to her anymore. Fast forward to August of 2020, and I'm driving her home from one of her appointments, and she starts talking about how vaccines cause autism, one of her favorite topics since she used to be a nurse somehow. I've made every effort to tolerate her BS up to this point, but after so many weeks of hearing the same old thing every day, I was a little over it. Stand by. My dad's calling for me somehow. we're currently we're back. I had to talk it over with my father, and I'm gonna have to finish this up. We are currently reading about an entitled grandmother kicking the original poster out. Let's restart the paragraph I'm currently on. Fast forward to August of 2020, and I'm driving her home from one of her appointments, and she starts talking about how vaccines cause autism, one of her favorite topics since she used to be a nurse somehow. I've made every effort to tolerate her BS up to this point, but after so many weeks of hearing the same thing every day, I was a little over it. I told her she was wrong, and that was about as far as the rest of that conversation went before she yelled at me, while I was still in the process of driving her home, mind you, to get out and go live with my mother. And she proceeded to bitch at me, bitch meaning complain, about how she was sick of my attitude, and I didn't have any right to talk to her that way when I barely did anything around the property to help out. Alright, so I moved in with my mom, which also happened to be at the same time I finally found a job that I've kept ever since and gotten promotions. Gang, gang. The only problem was that I couldn't take my dog and cat with me, since my mom had other cats and couldn't manage having a dog in the house. My grandmother, who was still pissed off, agreed to watch them only until I found a place of my own. In a couple months, I still hadn't saved up enough to actually rent someplace yet, so I ended up moving into an extended stay hotel for a while. I visit my grandmother to tell her I'm still working on finding a place, only to find out that she gave away my dog to the vet because I hadn't come to take him back yet. I still don't know what she did with my cat. When I called the vet later that day, they explained to me that she lied to them about how she had tried getting in contact with me and that I had abandoned my animals with her when she never once even tried calling me since I moved out. Unfortunately, they had already adopted my dog to someone else and couldn't provide any contact information for confidentiality reasons. And even though they said they would forward my contact info to the new owner in case they wanted to speak with me, I never did get a call from anyone. I still think about my dog and my cat and what they must have thought when they never got the chance to see me again. It keeps me up at night sometimes because of how angry and sad it makes me. My grandfather has since passed away, and I truly hope he's found some peace. He wasn't the easiest person to live with, and I know he was far from a saint in life. But even he didn't deserve to endure the hell my grandmother put him throughout their entire marriage. She's still going on strong, surviving purely off of bitterness and spite, if I had to imagine. I had to miss my grandfather's funeral because of COVID, but I think I'll just choose to stay home for hers, too. Looks like you've got a toxic mother there, OP. I'm not sure how to comment on that one, so we're just going to get to the next post. This is called "You're the Reason I Had a Heart Attack." So I will try to keep this as brief as possible. I was not the best son. I had a bad drug habit for around 10 years and made some pretty stupid decisions. I moved in and out of my mom's house throughout those years, and as you could guess, we would fight a lot. I am now 14 months clean, and for a majority of that time, I have not talked to Mother. It has made me realize just how manipulative, enabling, and, well, abusive she's been. I believe her when she says she loves me. I do. However, she would blame me for many of her issues. Not only that, but she would constantly lie to me And even when I was using drugs, I never lied. I would vent to her about my struggles, and to her, that was her cue to start a fight when I was just in need of a mother. She's always been aggressive. She is what you would call a Karen. When I was a child and I did something she did not approve of, she would call me an asshole. When I wanted to talk to my dad, she would tell me he doesn't want to talk to me while telling him that I do not want to talk to him. We did want to talk to each other. She would constantly remind me that she wishes she raised me better when, even though I had my problems, I was doing my best. It was just never enough. When I got clean, she would put me down for not having a job yet when I was non-stop looking for work. When I finally got a decent job, it didn't pay enough. When I got married, she was mad that I didn't invite her to the court for our certificate. When I told her that was not the reception and that it was planned for a later date. Nope, I'm wrong. Always wrong. A few months ago, my wife stopped by our house to grab some of my stuff, and my mother began to obsess over the fact that I decided that I had enough of her being her emotional punching bag and blaming me for her issues. Blaming me for why she treats my younger brothers like they're jerks. She told my wife lies to get her mad at me, and worst of all, blame me for the heart attack she had. She never told me about this heart attack. What a way to find out. I know I wasn't the best son, however, I have learned that she was a big reason to why I used. She would hold me back and then put me down for it. I made a decision to stop talking to her, and my life has become so much better. I have learned that you need to get away from the people, places, and things that keep you vibing low. It's the best decision I've ever made since getting off of drugs. Well, if you've got a Karen for a mother, I don't even blame you. There are a lot of people out there who took it far worse than you. If there's anyone out there who is old enough to leave their house and seems to believe that their parent is a Karen, you best get out of Dodge before things get worse, because you never know when your mother is gonna try to get at you. Alright. Best of luck to the OP for that. And the final one of the day. I just want to be a kid. My mom's immigrant guilt ruined my childhood. This is going to be our last post before we go off the air today. My mom and I emigrated to the United States in 1997. She met my stepdad through an international dating service. My life in America was never hard, so to speak. My mom always told me and my sister growing up that times were tough. As a kid, I never knew what it meant. My childhood was filled with the word no. As a kid, you're going to want toys and to go do things with friends. My mom always said no. And if I asked my stepdad, all he would say was go ask your mama, which always led to a no. Now, I'll say this, I was never starved and I was given what I needed growing up. But it was always bottom of the barrel. I remember I asked my mom for a pair of Nikes once. And I really mean once. They were $65.99, and my mom looked at me and said, "You're so greedy. You are so ungrateful for what you have. Your family back home could never afford shoes like that. Don't ever ask me for shoes like that again." Until I got my first job, I wore Walmart and Kmart. My mom had it drilled into my head that me asking for things that any kid would ask for was wrong. But the family back home had it so bad that I would be doing them an injustice for having clothes or toys or video games when they couldn't. A side note that is important. When I came to America initially, my mom and stepdad did not want me to start school a year late. So I brain dumped Spanish and learned English. I don't even know what brain dumped means. I'm thinking some school term, like the OP dropped Spanish in school. So I'm probably going to do that. You can refer to that. Yeah. Let's continue. It was not until last year, 2022, that I really started taking initiative to learn Spanish. Also, a side note about my parents. They have separate bank accounts. My stepdad claims that his money is his and my mom's money is hers. This will become relevant. Also, my mom would never pay for a ticket for me to visit our home country, because she said it was too expensive and that I didn't speak Spanish anyway. I got to the point where I was very fluent in conversational Spanish. My original plan was to surprise my mom. I practiced by getting in touch with family members back in her home country. I was talking to one of my cousins and I asked how her day was. She said it was okay, but she was waiting for the wire from my mom. At first I thought it was some sort of slang that I was not familiar with, so I asked her to clarify what she meant. She then tells me that she was waiting for my mom to send $800 down to, and that they were waiting for that to come in. At first I am thinking something is wrong, so I offer to help. My cousin says, no, your mom does this every month. I asked again if something was wrong. My cousin said no, so then I asked how long my mom has been doing this. She said since 1999. I asked her, is it always $800? My cousin explained that every month is a little different, but it's always been $600 a month. I said all right and called my mom. I told her that our cousin told me about the money you've been sending down there every month since '99. She said, yeah, it's for your grandmother's medicines. I called her out. No, it's not. No, it's not. You send them money because you feel guilty about living in America, and they can't. So you send them money every month, and they spend it on the same things you've told me I wasn't allowed to have because I was greedy. I told her during that conversation, I asked my cousin what type of clothes and shoes they wear. They said all the name brands that I was never allowed to look at. They took vacations on my mom's dime to Brazil, Peru, and Puerto Rico, when I missed every single school field trip that required money. I got a job at 14 so I could help with groceries and buy my own clothes because I felt that I was costing my mom too much money. I explained that according to them, she would send at least $600 a month down there. That would mean she has sent over $170K. I told her she could have helped me and my sister get through college, but instead we had to take the student loan route. I asked her this question. Is the reason you never bought me and my sister tickets to go visit because you didn't want us to see the truth? Her reply, I brought you to America because you had it better than all of them. You're just ungrateful. I said, no, I just don't feel guilty about being here. If they really wanted to come here, they should have used the $170,000 you sent them. If you have made it this far, then you might be wondering where my stepdad is in all this. His belief is, if the conversation is about money, then it's not his problem, seeing as it's not his. It was never about the clothes or the shoes. I just felt so betrayed because I wanted to experience whatever kids around me experienced. Not everything, but a few things. As a kid, I was made to feel terrible for wanting anything because I supposedly had it better, in quotation marks. I handed my mom my paychecks for years, thinking times were just too tough, just to find out that I had nothing to feel guilty about. I feel like my childhood was taken away from me because I wanted all the things a normal kid asked for. Okay, I don't even know how to unpack that one. A lot of kids ask for video games, Nikes, TVs, CD players, stuff like that. I should know. I myself was one such kid. And my mom and dad get me practically everything I want. Unfortunately, according to them, I myself am ungrateful. Well, the way I show my gratefulness is by using what I have. Look at what I'm doing right now. If that's ungrateful, then apparently my definition of ungrateful and my parents' definition of ungrateful is drastically different. It's practically normal for a kid to want things. Alright? Well, anyway, that's it for reading Reddit this week. We'll do this all over again on Monday. Wednesday, we'll be returning to New Super Lucky's Tale. And on Friday, for the first time, I will be debuting a live stream of a Nintendo Switch Online Plus expansion pack game. Game Boy games have just been released to Nintendo Switch Online, and one of the games we will be playing is Super Mario Land 2 6 Golden Coins. If you're on Twitch, feel free to follow me. If you're on YouTube, like, share, and subscribe. I'll be seeing you on Wednesday. Good afternoon.